To graduate from DNP, Doctor of Nursing Practice program, you must plan, implement, and evaluate a doctoral level project, which is called DNP project. Some DNP programs ask applicants to write about potential topics for their DNP project when they apply for the program. So coming up with a great topic for your DNP project is crucial for your success in getting accepted to a DNP program and graduating on time. In this episode, I welcome a special guest, Dr. Kathryn Daub, who used to be my chair for my DNP project and now a colleague and a friend to discuss this topic. Dr. Daub was a professor at University of Hawaii at Hilo for 26 years and the former director of the school for over 16 years. Dr. Daub developed the first DNP program in the state of Hawaii. She mentored many DNP students, including myself, to successfully complete the DNP project. I was able to publish a research paper based on DNP project with the Journal of American Association of Nurse Practitioners right after I graduated from the program. And publishing the article really helped me to elevate my career. So let's hear what Dr. Daub has to say about what DNP projects are and how to choose great topics for your DNP project. Thank you so much for joining this session. I'm so excited to have you, and you're such a wonderful mentor and such a wonderful nursing educator. And as I mentioned earlier, Dr. Daub had been a professor at University of Hawaii at Hilo for 26 years and the director of the school for 16 years. She taught many DNP students, helped many DNP students to complete the DNP project, and I was one of the lucky ones. So I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Muir. I'm really excited about being here today.
So before I ask you questions about how DNP projects are done at your specific university, I just want to go over some basic information of what DNP projects are across the United States. So that information can be found at the website of American Association of College of Nursing. So they issued this document. It's called DNP Essentials. The document defines what needs to be included in DNP curriculum, and that defines what defines DNP project. So according to the DNP Essentials, the DNP project can take different forms. It can be practice portfolio that includes the impact or outcomes due to practice and documents the final practicing basis and scholarship, or practice change initiative that includes pilot study, program evaluation, quality improvement project, evaluation of new practice model, consulting projects, integrated critical literature review. So it takes different forms. And for me, my DNP project was about preceptor training for nurse practitioner preceptors. My aim was to improve, my big goal was to improve quality of clinical education for nurse practitioner students. And one way to achieve that was to empower nurse practitioner preceptors like me now to learn how to be a good educator by receiving preceptor training. I encountered throughout the literature review, I knew that my topic was preceptor training, but I was reading different topics. And I encountered this model. It's called the 1-minute preceptor model, which had me used among physicians, residents, medical students, and that's a tool to facilitate communication between students and preceptors. And I decided I'm gonna apply this model that had been used among physicians and apply to nurse practitioner preceptorship and then see if it works and if it improves especially self-efficacy, the confidence among nurse practitioner preceptors, so they're more willing to participate and take more students. So I did that at my workplace, which is a rural federally qualified health center in Hawaii, and I implemented. And then I show the efficacy, the results, and then come up with the final discussion. A couple things to note is the final DNP project need to produce a tangible and deliverable academic product. You have to come up with some kind of, it might not be positive results. Maybe you expected this is going to be great, but then sometimes the result is actually going against your expectation. Maybe you thought that this is going to bring a positive outcome, but it turned out to be negative. But that's a science. We just have to see what the actual outcome is. But you have to have some kind of tangible, visible outcomes that you can measure. And then also, this will serve as a foundation for future scholarly practice. So that's the basic DNP project. But I know this is very wordy, very hard to understand. So we're going to break it down, and Dr. Daub will explain how DNP projects are done at University of Hawaii at Hilo. Dr. Daub, my first question, we're going to talk about what is DNP project, especially at the university.
The DNP project, as you said, really culminates in several semesters of a foundation that prepares you along the way on a project that will inform your practice and then have, as Dr. Mura said, a significant impact on your population, your community or organization or individual that you are focusing on as part of your project. There are several different forms that projects may take. One, such as you've described, is quality improvement, and also it's increased awareness. There's education projects that are available and out there. There are projects where you change practice by implementing a new methodology, like say in an organization, a specific flow chart or a standard of care as far as a protocol within an organization. And they are very significant application of evidence-based work that you would like to culminate that could improve patient outcomes. And as it was mentioned earlier, also, how you really come up with a DNP project is something that is really, it's not easy to do. Coming up with a project is something that is very important and can sometimes be very hard to do. And so what we do at University of Hawaii at Hilo is, in the beginning of the process, is when you're applying to become a student, we ask for maybe about 500 words of an idea of what you want to do for your project. And this is going to give us somewhat of an idea of what you would like to do in your work. There are some barriers to this that I want to guide you on today. But first, let me step back and just very briefly describe the process of when you are interested in the idea of becoming a doctor of nursing practice, and then what next steps would you do to and then begin class. So you would look at the university and an application, and within that application, we're looking at what are your goals and what kind of project you're interested in order to enter the graduate program and become a graduate student. Once you're in the program, then if you start post-baccalaureate, it's a 3-year program. And so this is very fast. If you are postmasters, then it's even faster track, which is sometimes only 18 months. And so when you decide on this scholarly proposal and program, PIP, we call it, the inquiry project, then we will help guide you as to a realistic, significant project. So once you are admitted, then you will choose a chair of your committee. And this is like a mentor and a faculty that will guide you every step of the way in order to then complete your project. You'd also ask for a second member, which will assist and guide you and help you to develop your project. Once that is finished and accomplished, and how you choose that, it's a partnership with the school, and you would look at the faculty's expertise related to the area that you're interested in. Say if it is a cultural competency, then you would look for a faculty that has expertise in, say, transcultural nursing or culture care. If you're interested in quality improvement, it may be a faculty that has implemented program change. And you will see that on the website. We have a description of our profiles, our faculty profiles, and I have seen that in other universities as well across the country. After that, we will discuss your project and help you really look at what your overarching goal is and then what your aims are for the project. And some of the issues that might come up are an idea that is way too broad to finish within a 3-year time period. And you must graduate. And so many students are very excited and very passionate about what they're doing or the project that they want. And they want to really make a change, but it's too big for this time frame. And so we help to try to get you to narrow your focus to something that is doable within that time frame and something that is realistic. The next thing that happens, the next step, is that we go through what's called SRC, and that's a scientific review committee. It's just a small committee of faculty that understand methodology and look at the focus of what your goals, your aims are, and then also the methodology, the form of evaluation. So if you're familiar with what is used as the nursing process here, you have observed something perhaps in the community that you become very passionate about. It may be diabetic teaching. It may be something that you have seen in your own practice that seems to be a problem that you want to help resolve. And so when this comes up, then that would be your focus of change. You would need to look at the research and the literature to see that it is an issue there. And you observe it, you discuss with other people, you do your assessment, and then you implement your project, and finally you evaluate whether it was effective or not. Then you go through what's called an IRB, Internal Review Board, and that's where it's an ethics board that looks at the quality, actually, of the project, the rigor, and then most importantly, it ensures that human subjects are protected. The protection is specific for minor children under 18 and for incarcerated individuals and for marginalized individuals to ensure that they are protected under the IRB. This kind of sparks a light to me on what could be difficult if you do choose a population that is a vulnerable population. That's very doable. But if you choose to do your project on, say, a pediatric population, then there are a lot stiffer rules because the person is not an adult, they're a minor. And so that's just one example. And so then once you go through there, you're on your way to succeed.
Wonderful. So thank you so much. There's so many information that I want to unpack, but thank you for going over the brief flow of how DNP projects are done. And it sounds like a lot, and honestly, it is a lot. But good thing is usually university will guide you through the process. So usually I remember that one semester I had to focus on this topic, the evidence part or literature review, and the next semester we do this. So usually the programs will guide you through each step. So you don't have to do the whole thing on your own. They'll give you a timeline and they'll give you some specific tasks that you should accomplish for the time frame. It's feasible. But there are so many things Dr. Daub mentioned that I want to unpack. You said that one of the common mistakes that students make is choosing too broad topic. And there's only 3-year time frame for BSN to DNP student. And remember that during the 3-year, students learn how to become a nurse practitioner, which is a lot to learn. You have to learn how to prescribe medication, how to come up with the correct diagnosis and stuff like that while you're also working on DNP projects. So you don't have complete 3-year to focus on DNP project. So very important, as Dr. Daub mentioned, to choose feasible topic in terms of time frame, because you don't have all 3 years to just completely dedicate to DNP project. Another thing I want to mention too is a lot of students might not think of this, but because compared to master's, I had my master's degree, then I did the MS and DNP, but compared to master's program, which sometimes you're just required to come up with project and then you don't have to implement, but for the DNP project, you actually have to implement. So you have to make sure the project is actually feasible to implement. Do you have resource? Like for me, for my preceptor training, I knew that my employer, my workplace would be supportive for my project. So it was feasible. I knew that I have the place that I can implement. So you want to make sure you have connections or you have some kind of place that you can actually implement, because even if you come up with a wonderful project idea, but there's nobody who can allow you to implement, then it's not going to happen. So for that, is there any other advice you would add?
Yes. I also wanted to mention that one of the keystone of importance to me is that you're very passionate about what project that you're going to do. If you choose a project that you feel, oh, I see that there's a need, and so I'm going to do this, but if your heart is not in it, it's so hard to stick with something that it takes a lot of work to do. And so when you have the passion for making the change of what you want to do, then you really will be able to fly with this. So I would say choose something that is manageable and something that you're really excited and passionate about, and then you're really going to be on your way.
Absolutely. That's super important, because you're going to read so many articles about the same topic over and over. And if it's something that's trendy, you think, oh, it's easy topic, you're not that interested, you're going to get bored. I don't want to even think about the topic. And I actually think some classmates changing their topic because they face that problem. So very important, as Dr. Daub mentioned, to find something that really, maybe the problem that really bothered you, that you really want to do something about it, or something that you're very passionate about, because that passion shows up when you present your project. People can tell you're very passionate about it, or just you don't really care anymore. So that's very good point. Yes. And another thing I want to mention, when I was a DNP student, I was so excited to be in the program, and I was thinking like, oh, I'm going to come up with a project that will change the world. I was dreaming big. But when it comes to DNP project, you can change the world when you graduate. There's so many, you can continue doing research. But remember also, especially if you are in a BSN to DNP program, you are learning how to become a nurse practitioner, and you're doing clinicals. So there's a lot of things you have to juggle. Maybe you're working, maybe you're raising children and stuff like that. So it has to be manageable. So instead of coming up with completely new idea, like I'm gonna create a new curriculum or a new program that I make from scratch, instead of doing that, I would suggest maybe tweak already existing program a little bit, or maybe apply to different population. Like I did, for me, I use this 1-minute preceptor model, which is used among physicians, and I apply to nurse practitioner population and then see how it works. So it seems like just a little bit of change. It doesn't seem like a huge change, but that also, because without those study, we cannot say it is going to be helpful for nurse practitioner students, because nurse practitioner students and medical students are different. Think about something more feasible and manageable, but also that you're passionate about. Wonderful. I hope you are enjoying this episode. Before we go back, I want to quickly mention that I'm giving a gift to you for listening to this episode. I'm giving a free PDF nurse practitioner job interview prep checklist. This checklist is full of questions that you're likely to be asked during job interviews as a nurse practitioner and some tips on how to prepare for them. With this downloadable PDF, you can prepare for interviews well so you feel confident and stand out from other candidates to get the job that you really want. To get this free PDF nurse practitioner job interview prep checklist, you can go to usa.jnpproject.com/interview. Again, usa.jnpproject.com/interview. Now, let's get back to the episode. So let's move on to the next question. So we talked about this already, but what are other common mistakes students make in terms of deciding on DNP project topic?
I would say these are the main three keys that were mentioned, is that there could be that challenge by the internal review board. And again, that would be a population that would be with a microscope, so to speak. It would be, say, incarcerated individuals. And as I mentioned, your subjects are minors or under 18 years old here in the US anyway, and would need special things such as parental consent. And so there are several other forms, and the process is much more lengthy if you do decide on, say, the homeless population. That is very, very important research and implementation of projects that are going on here in Hilo as well as on other islands that definitely involve individuals that would be considered vulnerable by the internal review board. That is not a reason not to choose your project, but something to be aware that it will take a longer period of time for you to get from that, as I mentioned, the SRC scientific review committee through that ethics committee. And sometimes they meet only once a month. And then the next thing you know, it's 4 months and you still want to work with this population, but you're waiting. You could lose a lot of time. So that's the only reason why I don't want to be negative about the vulnerable population. That is so important. Behavioral health involving, say, suicide, the rampant epidemic of opioids in the US is something that many DNPs are working very hard to help, but it will take longer time. So be aware of that and that challenge of the IRB. And then the timeline that we talked about, it seems sometimes, 3 years, I have 3 years, but it is true. You will be training to be a practitioner at that highest level as well, which is added time that is so needed. And you don't want to get stuck with time management issues where you won't finish in time. And you have to finish in time, because then you have to work on your life, changing. That can change the world. After you have the degree, it can change the world. And then the third thing to emphasize again is the topic that you have chosen. Now, say you have chosen a topic. It's a very good topic. You're extremely passionate about it. It has been even a goal in your life to say, make a change to increase the awareness of, say, self-care in a certain area that's very important to you, whether it was a personal experience or something that you've seen in practice. All of that is okay, but then if it's too broad, you you will have to pick a piece of what your passion is in order to complete it in time. And your chair will help you with that.
Right.
So those are the main areas that could affect the decision, or something to think about as you're deciding on what your project would be.
Wonderful. So let's say a student really is passionate about improving a person with homelessness, the quality of life of persons with homelessness. And like you said, it's not that you shouldn't choose the topic for your DNP project, but one thing to manage the time frame is maybe you need to be aware that IRB is going to take longer time. So you have to submit the IRB application way sooner than your colleagues. And in fact, although you have classmates taking same classes, when you submit those papers depends on the person. Some students submit it later on, and then so although school will give you broad time frame of you have to do this step, but especially if you're choosing those vulnerable population, and if you're very passionate about, I would say go for it, but just be aware that the process may take longer. And that's where you can communicate closely with chair and you support faculty. Do you think this is feasible? Because they also know how the local IRB works and what the time frame is and stuff like that, what their preference and then the process. Closely work with them and see that's the direction you want to go into.
And I could add to that also, if this is your passion, say like the example of the homelessness or the homeless, some malpractitioners call this population the houseless, which I like also, as opposed to homeless. Now, with this population, you're vested and you really want to make a change. And if you do want to stick with this, but you want to get through IRB, then your chair could help you with an angle that could be something that you could collect data, analyze, and that would be very significant without too much invasion of the person's, say, vulnerability or privacy or trust. Because many houseless or homeless individuals really don't trust an outsider. So, that's another challenge that you might face. So your chair might say, I am familiar with the homeless population, this area of a certain island. And so what you could consider is, say, interviews that are open-ended, and because your questions then you would put through IRB. One thing that you would consider probably not doing is doing such a survey via computer. Say, SurveyMonkey might be one application where you could completely not have the identification of the person. But many homeless don't have access to doing a survey. They don't have a computer. They don't have access, and they don't trust that it is confidential. So there's certain ways that you could collect data. It could be observation, say at a food drive. Things like that, they'll help you work around. And then the IRB will say, oh, that's acceptable, because there would not be a way to affect a negative change or have an impact that could cause some kind of psychological stress to the person. That's just another example. Take it on in decision-making and challenges.
That's wonderful advice. Also, I think if you maybe read different research articles targeting same population and see how they protected human rights for that population, what kind of method they use, because those articles pass their IRB. So you can learn from the method and see this is how they protect it. So maybe I can utilize the same. Or also, instead of I'm going to work with the houseless population, I'm going to create a completely new tool or something. But instead of doing that, maybe you can say this tool has been proven to help with the houseless population in Montana or some other area. So this is proven, but what about we use this in rural Hawaii and then see? So you have some kind of evidence that this is not a dangerous tool. This is already proven in a different population, but we're going to just apply to a different population and see this is also applicable for our community. That's another way to maybe lessen the risk of rejected by RRB.
That's right.
So the last question would be, what advice would you give on deciding DNP project topics? So let's say students are applying for DNP programs and they heard that, I have to write 500 words essay about potential DNP projects. And they're not nurse practitioner student yet. They are applying. They had no idea. Oh my God, I had no idea how to come up with this DNP project topic. What should they do? Where can they get ideas for a potential topic for them?
That's a great question. And I know for myself, when I'm going to apply or I need to specifically choose something, I really love to see an example of what would be acceptable or what has been done before to help me in that development of my project idea. And one thing you can do that I think is a great help is go to, for example, our University of Hawaii at Hilo website. And when you go to the main hawaii.edu website, you can simply, where it says search, type in HOKU, Hoku, and then you will see all of the different graduate programs. You go to nursing, you click there, and then you can see sample titles and a very short description of what the project is. And so that could give you a really good idea of the successful students' work that they've done. There must be maybe 30 plus of these complete scientific manuscript article uploads, but you can see there easily by clicking many. And you also see that there is a broad range of topics that have been very successful. What Hoku is in uploading of your final scientific manuscript, that is very close to being ready to be published. And that is a requirement of our school. It's very rigorous, but Dr. Miura went through this and is published in her work. And that is not easy, but that is disseminating her work for globally for other practitioners or for students like you to get ideas. And so you can go to that site. The other thing that will help you get ideas is, as we said before, what you have seen around you. And also you can think in your mind, is this evidence-based? Is this just the intuition that I have? Is it something that happened to me personally? And is it really very significant, important in the world? And so you can scrutinize your idea there and look at it that way. And I'm trying to think of other examples. I think that you can just look at your coworkers and maybe what they have seen also as being issues. So it could be personal experience, it could be your professional environment that you've seen, or it could be one disease process that there's a lack in education for your patients, or something that you feel very close to because it's so important.
Yes, I literally used Hoku and read the alumni's paper, and it really helped me a lot, especially a couple of manuscripts that I read written by alumni was really helpful. And I happened to encounter the author the other day. I was at the conference, and then I saw a lady walking with a huge bag. It looked really heavy, and I offered to carry it because I was going to go to the same direction, and we're talking and find out that she was alumni from the same school. She wrote the paper that I was referring to. I was like, oh my God, I read your paper. It really helped me. But really, I wish I read the resource way earlier. It saves a lot of time for me. Start reading alumni's paper. I think pretty much all schools can give you that resource. So try reading that. And you can see each school has a little bit different theme. University of Hawaii at Hilo focused on rural health, which matched. My project was also catered to the rural community health center. So each school also have a little bit different theme. You can read alumni's paper. You can also read a graduate from other schools. That will be helpful as well. Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. I believe this is so helpful. And we have so many other topics that we want to unpack, like how to find good chair and how to build a good relationship with chair. I was so lucky to have Dr. Daub at my chair. And I have another secondary faculty. She was so amazing too. They were like a cheerleader to me. They always respond to me. And I had such a good team. But some people might not be as lucky as me and might struggle with having good support from faculty. So maybe Dr. Daub can help us to come up with a better solution for that. But that will be the next topic.
I would be glad to talk about that.
Yeah. Wonderful. But anyway, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to do this again with you.
Thank you very much.